So we found this film in our archives from 1967. This is Bradley Airport, and yes, that is an Eastern Airlines jet landing at Bradley, and people just walking off, no security. Look at those propellers. It was a different world back then at Bradley Airport in 1967. No security, not a lot of anything. And with us today to talk about the future of Bradley Airport is Kevin Dillon, the executive director. And thank you for being with us here, sir. And certainly we have come a long way.
We certainly have. Great to be with you.
Well, good to see you. So we're talking about the future of Bradley Airport. One of the things that we talked about last week in the program was they're talking about changing the name of the airport because Connecticut lacks sort of a big city, and to maybe give it a city name would help. I know Hartford International Airport's one of the things that's been floated by the mayor and a few other things. What do you like, and why would there even be a name change?
Well, it's something we have under consideration. We don't have any set direction on that, but what we're finding, particularly as we get into the international air service arena, folks just don't know where Bradley Airport is. So we're talking about potentially bringing a geographic identifier into the name. And when you look at airports across the country, the majority of them are identified by a geographic region or a particular city. So it's something that we want to consider. But at the same time, we want to be very cautious. A lot of folks don't realize Bradley Airport is named after Eugene Bradley, a World War II flyer. So there's a lot of history there. We want to make sure that our veteran groups are comfortable with whatever we do with the name. So we don't have a set direction, but that's the impetus for taking a look at it.
It could also be a place with two names, too. Let's say Hartford International Airport at Bradley Field, or the Bradley Terminal, or something like that, like other cities have done.
Absolutely.
Detroit is in Romulus, which is like 30 minutes from the city. But
absolutely. If we did change the name, we certainly want to make sure that we honor Eugene Bradley. Very similar situation out in Milwaukee just happened. That was called General Mitchell Airport. They just changed the name to Mitchell Milwaukee Airport because they were running into the same issues. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about that.
It is one of the things that, we talked about this last week in the program, but trying to get people from Fairfield County to use Bradley Airport is kind of a tough sell sometimes, even though it's much easier for them to go to Bradley than it is to go to LaGuardia. How do you get those customers? Because that's a lot of money to be had.
Well, we're finding the number one thing people want is more nonstop destinations. So we put a lot of effort into our airline route marketing and try to enhance that route menu that we have. So I think it's a matter of educating folks about what we have at Bradley. Certainly what we're selling is convenience. When you compare us to LaGuardia or up to Boston Logan, we're never going to have the route structure that those cities have, but what we're selling is convenience. And LaGuardia and Boston will never have that convenience factor.
What about getting more international flights?
Well, we're very pleased that we were just able to lock down Aer Lingus for 4 more years of service at Bradley. So we feel very comfortable now. It's a successful route that we can start to talk to other carriers. By far and away, the number one international destination that we're after is London. We think that would be a slam dunk in terms of success as a route. So we are talking to carriers right now, and we're hopeful that in the near future we'll be able to announce some new service.
Perhaps this year?
Well, air service is funny. It's, you go through almost a courting process with the airlines. There are so many cities that are chasing their limited assets. I've often said we compete with regional airports for passengers, but we're actually competing with every other airport in the country for limited airline assets. So sometimes they're actually planning their routes 2 and 3 years out. So we're in the midst of those conversations right now. I doubt you're going to see another transatlantic service this year, but hopefully shortly thereafter. One
of the problems with the new Bradley Airport, which is now, we're going on about 18 years old now, correct? Yeah. Since they rebuilt it, was that it opened or just before 9/11, so security changes were still to be made, and it wasn't quite designed with that in mind. How has that impacted long-term success of the airport?
Well, right now, we're handling about 6.7 million passengers. I truly believe this could easily become a 10 million passenger airport. So when you start talking about volume increases like that, you really have to look at the existing infrastructure and say, how are we going to expand it to accommodate that? And one of the limiting factors becomes those security considerations that you just mentioned. Our security checkpoint has finite space right now, so we're going to have to alter the building to accommodate that. So we're actually going through a program right now to see how the terminal can be redesigned, what it is that we need to enhance that passenger flow as we reach that 10 million passenger mark, but at the same time keep that convenience factor that I talked about earlier.
Governor Lamont has said that improving transportation in Connecticut is one of his top priorities, and one of the things that they'd like to see is perhaps some train service into Bradley so that people can maybe jump on Metro North, take it up north, the Hartford line and go right to Bradley Airport. How does that happen?
Extremely important to us. That's why we push for the improvements on the Hartford line, particularly as you talk to international carriers. Europeans in particular are very enamored with the airport-to-rail connectivity. So it's an important component as we continue to try to enhance those airline routes. So I do think, there's been, significant improvements on that Hartford line. What we're looking to do now is build a new transportation center at the airport. We're anticipating starting construction this summer. And that transportation center will house our rental cars, but it'll also have a transit component that will allow us to connect the airport directly into the Hartford line. Up front, it'll be high-frequency bus service, but we've actually worked with the surrounding towns to preserve a light rail corridor. I do believe once we can generate the passenger traffic, you'll see a light rail connection from that heavy rail line directly onto the airport.
Light rail was talked about once before. Back in the 1970s, under Governor Meskel, he proposed building what was then called Tommy's Trolley. And people thought it was foolish, and Governor Grasso, who succeeded him, got rid of it. Was that a mistake? Should they have stuck with that plan?
I think, as you continue to enhance these passenger numbers, people are looking for greater ground transportation, access to the airport. I think it is something that has to be looked at. I think in my tenure as airport director there, you probably will not see the light rail. It takes a lot of passenger generation to sustain the cost of that. But I think it's foolish not to look to the future to plan for that.
Good enough. Kevin Dillon from Bradley Airport, we thank you so much. Best of luck with whatever the new name might be down the road.
Thank you.
And we thank you so much for watching Face the State on this Sunday. Enjoy your day, and we will see you again on the news tonight at 6:30.